Musically meditated.
All right, Myke. First and foremost, could you introduce yourself and what it is exactly you do?
I go by Myke C-Town. I do YouTube stuff. I have two channels. One, that's the more popular one, is Dead End Hip Hop, where we kind of talk about basically hip hop culture, music, art, you know, anything basically related to hip hop culture, album reviews, culture critiques, that kind of thing, as pretentious as that sounds. But and then I have my own channel where on my channel I discuss things that are closer to my personal interests. So I talk about records, I talk about metal, I talk about punk. I do talk about hip hop as well, but I talk about more of the more underground stuff than what would be covered on Dead End. So yeah, that's kind of it.
Awesome, man. And congratulations on the 50,000 followers too, or subscribers, I should say, on YouTube. That's awesome.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, congratulations. Now, as far as like your musical background, like we talked about before, you were born in Boston, but you've kind of bounced around, right? So what is like your upbringing and your musical background and geographically speaking?
So I was born in Boston. I left when I was probably 5, I think, 4 or 5, moved out to California. And then I came to Georgia, when I was 13, I think. Yeah, when I was 13. So when I was living in California, I was just listening to, you know, whatever was on the radio, which is mostly rap at the time, you know. But I had a pretty diverse household. You know, my dad liked some rock and roll stuff. I think I mentioned before, like one of the very first cassettes that I ever got was Whitesnake's Slip of the Tongue, which was from him. He liked that kind of shit. He also played country and stuff in the house, which was cool. But yeah, when I moved to Georgia, that was around, oh God, I don't want to date myself. I think it was like 92 or something like that.
All right.
But shortly after getting here is when I got into like punk rock. I didn't really know what punk rock was when I was in California, but when I came here, I met some kids through like skateboarding, and I got into punk rock. So I was listening to like Operation Ivy and NoFX and Bad Religion and shit like that. So
really
so,
cool.
Yeah.
Was there a scene in LA, or not LA, I'm sorry, in Atlanta? Was there like a punk scene, or was it just kind of like the skating culture itself?
Oh yeah, dude. There was a huge punk scene here. There was, I got into punk, but then I pretty quickly got into hardcore. So I was only listening to like strictly punk rock stuff for a little while before I found hardcore. But I went to some punk shows, and yeah, man, like back in those days, there was a really strong punk rock scene. This was, of course, prior to MTV finding like Green Day and that kind of shit. Like this was when like punk rock was really, really a subculture. Like you didn't just walk down the street and see somebody wearing a punk rock shirt.
Yeah, like some dude just wearing a Misfit shirt. It wasn't like that back then.
Exactly. Yeah. If you saw somebody back then wearing a Misfits shirt, they definitely listened to the Misfits. They didn't just buy the shirt because it was like, oh, this looks neat.
Yeah, or it's at Target right now for $5.99 or something. Like I see Nirvana shirts.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That. Shit, man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super weird. But yeah, that was the deal. Like there was a really strong punk scene, but you know, I was only involved in that for, you know, maybe a year or two before I got really heavy into the hardcore scene.
And what was the bridge that connect you from punk to hardcore? I keep close tabs on you for the most part and watch a lot of your content. Is it safe to say that was Earth Crisis, or am I getting ahead of myself?
No. So
okay.
What got me from punk to hardcore was there was this record that Revelation Records put out. It was called New York Hardcore: The Way It Is.
Okay.
It was either The Way It Is or The Way It Was. I think it's The Way It Is. But it was like Youth of Today, Gorilla Biscuits, Bold, Breakdown. It was like all of these bands that were like those really good transition bands. They still sounded like punk bands, but they were hardcore bands.
Absolutely.
So that's really what got me into hardcore, was like those bands. You know, it was mostly Youth of Today and Gorilla Biscuits. Like those were my bands. And then it was like Judge was like that band that started to get me into like harder stuff. And then Earth Crisis came, maybe a year or so after that.
Okay. Yeah. There's something about Judge. I talked about this on my last episode. There's something about Judge that was like violent, right? Like believable, like there was a violent edge to Judge, like not necessarily in a good or a bad way, but like it wasn't fake. Like, like it was, there's just like a vibe to Judge that, I don't know. It always had like this violent edge. Do you agree?
Yeah. I don't really know what it was either, but yeah, with bands like Judge, with bands like SSD, Negative Effects, like with those bands, there was always something, like some seedy, dirty, kind of mean thing about them that I really couldn't really put my finger on, but they were such a great band to listen to transition from like hardcore to the heavier stuff. Even though when you listen to them now, they really weren't that heavy in comparison to other bands, but there was just something about them. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, something genuine. Like violent might not be the right term, but I think you know what I'm talking about. Like there was an edge to it that was like genuine. Like it just really, I don't know, primal almost, like something that really got the hairs to stand up on the back of your neck. Like, all right, like, I'm ready, But as far as Earth Crisis goes, how did that happen? Was that kind of like that metal and hardcore, like new metal thing that was going on? Like, because that's how Earth Crisis entered my life, was like that 98 Ozfest sample CD. And I'm like, who are these dudes? And that's how I was introduced to hardcore. So is that how Earth Crisis came into your life too, or was there a different way?
No. So I'm trying to think of what year it was, but I remember this was around the time when I was getting into records, and someone had given me the first Mean Season 7-inch, I think, and I also got like an Unbroken. No, am I getting times mixed up? Doesn't matter. Yeah. At any rate, I remember my buddy Brad walking into my house. I live with my mom, and he's like, "Dude, you have to hear this." And he had the Earth Crisis Firestorm record, and I was like, "Okay, this looks cool. Let's check it out." And I remember me and him sat there in the house and put it on, and we were both like, oh my God. And I didn't know shit about metal at the time. I want to say like this and like Looking Glass Self by Snapcase was like the first like kind of hardcore records that I'd heard, but there was something about Firestorm. I don't know what it was, but it put me on my ass. And I was like, all right, this is my new favorite band. And we wore that shit out. I was already straight edge at the time, but I wasn't vegan yet. And it was Eden's demise on that 7-inch that convinced me to go vegan. And that was in like fucking 94, I think.
Damn, so you've been vegan that long?
Yeah. What year is it now?
It's 2019.
Yeah.
2019.
Yeah, 25 years, dude. 25 years.
Congratulations.
So yeah.
Yeah, man, that's awesome, because I remember I was watching one of your videos too. I think it was like how your parents influenced your musical taste or what they were listening to at the time. And I think you mentioned that like you were a teenager and all of a sudden you're like, "Hey Mom, I'm vegan now." And she's like, "All right, well, I guess you're cooking for yourself." So essentially you've been cooking for yourself since then, right?
Pretty much. Damn. Yeah. Cause, my dad had already passed away by that point. My mom, so it was just me and my mom, and I think my brother and sister were still living at the house. And when I first went vegan, she was just like, "It's cool, but I don't know anything about this. Good luck." Because she already thought I was a weirdo anyway, not in a bad way, but she was like, I was an artist at the time, I was skating, I was always dyeing my hair, I was dressing crazy. So she was just like, "Oh, now he's a vegetarian, whatever." So, but yeah, she didn't cook anything for me. And back then, this is when you couldn't just go to a random restaurant and get vegan food. It didn't exist. You had to make it. Right. So we had to like just go to the grocery store and get like, this was before Boca Burgers were even around. So you just had to get like these shitty burgers that tasted like cardboard, but you just ate them because that's all you had. That and just vegetables. Like you couldn't get vegan cheese at a store. If you wanted vegan cheese, you had to literally make it from scratch.
Damn.
So it was a dark time, man.
Like sticking to your guns, though. I respect that. I've personally tried, like I've gone veggie, never vegan, but veggie for like, I think my longest was almost close to 6 months, but usually I'll do it like for 90 days here and there. But it's something I want to do in the future. I really do, just to eat cleaner. And I love animals, you know. So as far as vegan too, like you never wear anything leather or buy any animal product whatsoever.
No,
correct? Okay.
no. Yeah, it was never even about diet for me. Like I know nowadays veganism is very popular. I think like Jay-Z and Beyonce like really made it popular.
A good call.
But you know, most of it is people are just like, oh, you know, I want to lose some weight, or you know, I want to do this for health. And it was never about that for me. It was always just about, you know, animal welfare, animal rights. You know, I was one of those dudes going to protests every weekend, holding signs outside of Macy's, you know, stop buying furs, all that shit. But yeah, it was always 99% about animals.
Awesome. And in Earth Crisis, did they bring that into your orbit? Would you say it was Earth Crisis?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely. They 100%. If it was, well, I can't say if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be vegan, but I'm just saying like they were the band that put veganism in front of my face. You know, I was listening to the record and I can't remember the line now, something like, mass murder, demonic cruelty, absolute fascism, to end the enslavement and slaughter. The antidote is veganism. And I'd never thought about that before at 15 years old or however old I was. I was just like, oh, weird. I never once thought that this was all about, you know, here's the thing. I think that everyone at some point comes to the realization that a hamburger equals a cow. You know, people will say, well, I always do that. They're full of shit. When you're a kid, you don't think that. But at some point in your life, you understand like this hamburger that I'm eating at one point was this cute little cow that I've been looking at in these coloring books. And either you care and you stop, you care and you kind of moderate it, or you don't care and you just move on. Either way, when I came to that realization, unfortunately, I'm a slow learner, so I didn't come to realization until I was like 14 or 15 years old. Yeah. I was just like, all right, that's gross, and I need to stop. And that was really all it took.
Awesome. And that's heavy content and a heavy subculture to really just dive into at 15. You know, a lot of people are just worried about getting their driver's license, to be honest, you know. So
yeah,
I tip my hat to you for that. And same with Earth Crisis and the veganism. Did that lead into the straight edge, or were you doing the straight edge lifestyle before or at the same time?
I was already straight edge before I found Earth Crisis. So I don't remember, me and my friend Brad went straight edge around the same time. I don't remember what prompted that. I just know that it was probably Youth of Today. If I had to think back, I remember seeing all those promo shots of like Ray Capo with the big X's on his hand. And I remember one of the most iconic to me was in the Green Day, Jesus Christ, in the Gorilla Biscuits CD, there was one of Civ, and he's holding his hand up and he has this big X on his hand. And it was just this really cool thing that when you start looking it up, of course we didn't have Google yet, but when you start talking to people and you realize that it's this really cool subculture where these dudes, they don't drink and they don't smoke and they still have a good ass time. It sounds lame now, but you know, in high school, it sounded fucking awesome. But yeah, we just jumped right on board with that. And we didn't really know there was like a cross section of veganism that came along with that until later.
All right. Yeah, that's badass. And as far as Gorilla Biscuits go, just to digress a little bit, did they come to Atlanta like over the summer, this past summer? Because I caught up with them at the Metro. It was crazy. It was a matinee show in Chicago, like right by Wrigley Field. So it was like a show at one in the afternoon, and they were with Modern Life is War and True Love. Did you catch them this past summer?
They didn't play here this past summer. I saw them. When they did their very first reunion tour. This was years and years ago. They came to Atlanta, and it was my first time seeing them, and we all fucking flipped our shit. I might have even still been straight edge back. No, I wasn't. I'm lying. Sorry. No, I wasn't. Anyways, I saw them then, and then I've seen them a few times since. They've come through and they've played a couple of fests here, but they haven't really done a solo tour through Atlanta since they've gotten like strong back together.
Okay. Yeah, it was a cool show. I'm glad I got to catch him. It's been a minute for me. And to transition into death metal and black metal, I guess we'll focus on black metal first. Like, did it bother you? Did it bother you when there was certain black metal bands with like animal heads on spikes and shit? Like how'd you go from that? How did you jump from that idea, you know, that ideology to, all right, now I'm into black metal. Like now I'm into Burzum. What's up? Like how did you make that? Like how did that come into your life?
Well,
black metal.
We didn't know. Like people that are our age understand this, but I don't really know what your listener base is, but a lot of younger kids really can't fathom not hearing something and then jumping online and typing it in to see what the band's all about. We didn't have that option.
Right.
So back then I didn't know anything about the pig heads and stuff that Mayhem would do, or the cow's blood. I didn't know anything about any of that shit. All I knew was these bands sounded like really gross, underproduced punk bands, and it's fucking cool. They're dressed up and they're evil and they hate fucking churches. Great. I'm all about it.
Right.
That's all I knew. You know, by the time I discovered all the other stuff, you know, the racist element and the weird animal stuff, by that point it was fucking too late. I was already fucking neck deep in this stuff listening to it. So, you know, it's one of those things where you have to kind of understand that cultures are different. I don't mean like cultures as in races, but I mean like subcultures are different. Like with black metal, I looked at it and I said, okay, you know, the pure essence of this culture is these motherfuckers are evil. Everything about them is gross and evil, antagonistic, all of that. So the pig heads and all that shit, it just goes along with it. I think it sucks. And of course I was like, man, I wish they cut that shit out.
Right.
But
right.
it wasn't something where I was like, man, I'm going to send an angry letter to Mayhem and hope they read it and be like, stop fucking using animal heads. It was just like, this is what they do. It is what it is. And plus, again, I was also really young at the time. So, you know, I kind of, when I first discovered like extreme metal, I kind of just assumed that all of those bands were into gross stuff like that. I figured all those bands were running around killing cats and shit because they're just, you know, that's an evil thing.
Right.
So it didn't really shock me.
Okay. Yeah. Cause for me personally, I was always more of a death metal guy, you know, as a kid, like you said, like 14, 15. And when it started to enter, you know, my musical taste just because of friends and you know how that goes. But I was more death metal, but I was first exposed to black metal at Milwaukee Metal Fest because I live here in Northwest Indiana. So I'm like 40 minutes away from Chicago, and the Milwaukee's, you know, basically right next to Chicago. So we would go to Milwaukee Metal Fest. Have you heard of that? Do you remember that back in the day?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep,
So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So that's where we would go to Milwaukee Metal Fest. I think I went like 99 and 2000, 2001. And, I'd say 80% of the bands were black metal. And I'm like, what is, you know, like I kind of knew, but I wasn't like totally exposed to it. And it's like, I liked it, but I was like a little bit freaked out because it was scary. You know, it just really was. It was a lot to take in. And I think the corpse paint and shit, like, you know, gimmicky, not saying that it's gimmicky, but with anything like that, like Slipknot, I liked when I was younger, but you know what I'm saying? Like any of the theatrics and shit, it's kind of a hard pill for me to swallow. Although I do appreciate it now more as I'm older. But when I was younger, it was like maybe more macho, like, no, death metal, you know, like black metal's for pussies or something. Like that's the vibe that my whole group had. But like I said, as I'm getting older now, I appreciate it for sure. How about like your top, like your big three? Like who was the first band, black metal band that you were exposed to and just really, really grabbed your attention?
The first was Dark Throne. That was, from what I can remember, I'm pretty sure that was the first CD that I went out and bought. I don't remember how I first heard them, but I remember this was back in the day when I would just go to Tower Records and I would just buy anything with like scribble writing on it. Right. And I would just be like, all right, this has got to be good. This has got to be good. Let me just take this home. But I went and I bought Dark Throne's Transylvanian Hunger, and I was like, holy shit, this record is fucking awesome. And I would just listen to it every single day. Like my girlfriend at the time used to get so annoyed because I would go to sleep to it because it was just so hypnotic and relaxing to me. She'd be like, oh my God, this is awful.
Red flag,
it was so relaxing. For some reason, just really calming. I would just put it on and it would just make me want to lay down and relax.
Right on. Have you ever gone to like Norway or anywhere, like any place up there to see a black metal show? Have you ever gone across the pond to see an actual legit black metal show where it comes from?
Fuck no.
Okay.
No, dude.
Right.
I definitely, I want to go to Norway because I want to see I want to see Helvet. I want to see it before it gets destroyed again. I want to see the black metal wall. I want to see that stuff. Would I go to a show while I'm there? I don't know. I've thought about it. I don't know, because I as much as I've dealt with the weird, seedy, racist element here, I can imagine it's just as bad, if not worse, there. But then some people tell me that the culture has completely shifted and it's not like that anymore. Like, I know, like, the dudes who run Helvet now, like, some of those guys are into hip hop, and one of those guys is like, I think he does like social media management for Dark Throne, and he's vehemently anti-racist. So I don't know, maybe things have changed, but I don't know if I would really take that chance if I was over there, because it might just be some doofus that wants to be cool and smash a bottle over my head just because he thinks Barb would think it was dope. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Shame on that shit for sure. For sure. Now moving on to, it's a bummer. Like, even shit, I don't want to get off on that too much, but like Dissection and the story with that. And I think there was some shit with Marduk too, right? Or Marduk, however you say it, like some racist undertone, racist elements with them, like especially the singer from Dissection, right? Like,
no, he was anti-racist. No, the singer John from Dissection was one of the guys who was very much like anti-NSBM. He thought it didn't make any sense.
Okay.
And I've heard that before, that people thought that he was racist, but I was never able to figure out where that came from. He definitely, if you looked at the motherfucker, he definitely looked like he'd be a racist. Right. He's bald, big tattoos. He looks like a big fucking skinhead,
right.
You know?
Right.
And he definitely was homophobic. You know, he killed some dude. But I don't believe that he had any racist ties. Marduk is one of those bands where I think they like to play with certain themes
and imagery,
and it's gotten them in trouble.
Yeah, like World War II imagery and shit. Because same with Jeff from Slayer. Remember, he was like a big World War II buff, and they put that imagery in there. And I could see where that would definitely be misleading in a racist, you know, Nazi kind of direction. But that's what they're kind of guilty of, right? Marduk or Marduk, however you say it.
Yeah, I've never, because I know they got Antifa on their ass for a minute. I don't think I've ever seen anything that said that they were racist. But who knows, man? Who knows? I mean, I'm sure a lot of the bands that we like, the dudes are secretly racist. But until they come out and they either do or say something that's clear as day, I try not to label people.
Yeah, it's a shitty label.
I know they're,
you know,
say it again?
I said that's a shitty label, you know, to be called a racist and you're not. Like, it's bad. It's bad. But just being a racist is bad too. Yeah. But nobody likes that shit. But go ahead. But yeah, with Marduk, I always liked Seven Plagues, Seven Angels. That was one of my jams. Like, I was exposed to them at a very young age too with black metal. So I've always kind of had a soft spot in my heart for him, but I did hear some of those allegations. So I was like, I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on from that. But I do know, like, looking at your content and watching and listening, like, death metal was kind of second to you compared to black metal, right? Is there any reasoning for that? Was it the vocals? Was it the guitar tone, the production? Like, why was black metal why was death metal behind black metal for you?
I got into death metal first.
Okay.
It didn't grab me the way black metal did. So, I mean, I heard, like, the first real heavy metal band I heard was Carcass. They were like the first death metal band I heard. A friend of mine had given me their CD and told me to go home and check it out, because I had let him hear Earth Crisis. And he was like, if you like this, you'll like Carcass. And at the time, I was just like, no, death metal's stupid. I don't want to listen to that stupid shit. Right. And he's like, you're basically listening to death metal. He's like, it's heavy. The guy's screaming. Listen to Carcass. You'll like it. Right. Took it home. I listened to Heartwork, and I was like, oh, this is stupid. I don't like it. But it was like a week later, it clicked. And I was like, holy shit, this record's great. And from there, I got into other death metal stuff like Cannibal Corpse. And because I used to hang out with these metal dudes in high school, not because we shared music taste. It was because we were all losers and no one else would hang out with us. So just by default, you know, I'm this weird black kid who likes skateboarding when that wasn't cool back then, who listens to punk rock, which that wasn't cool back then, who dressed crazy. You know, no one wanted to talk to me, but the metal dudes were like, yeah, fuck it, come hang with us. Mm-hmm. You know, we're outcasts too. But I didn't even like metal at the time. But one of the guys would always wear Cannibal Corpse shirts to school, to high school. And I was always like, what is that? But I knew that I didn't want to get into that because I thought that all death metal was racist and I thought all death metal was stupid and I didn't want anything to do with it. But, you know, once I got Carcass, I was like, all right, I want all of the death metal. I want fucking Cannibal Corpse. I want Morbid Angel. I want Suffocation. I want all of this stuff. But it's just black metal. Just when I heard it, for some reason, black metal just stunk in more. The sound of it, the atmosphere, I don't know, man. It just stuck. It just stuck more than death metal did.
Right on. Like for me, I was more death metal, like I mentioned, but Cannibal Corpse was huge. Like my big three were Cannibal Corpse, Morbid Angel, and Cryptopsy. You know, and then I started to get into a little bit more grindcore. You know, but those were my three big death metal bands, and Corpse was just everything, you know, from the artwork to, you know, more Chris Barnes vocals instead of Fisher. Like I like Fisher, but like the Bleeding, I always tell people this, the Bleeding by Cannibal Corpse is probably the go-to place to even experiment or, you know, dip your toe in the water, so to speak, to try out death metal. Would you agree? You think that's a really great record? Do you like the Bleeding by Corpse?
I do. I like most of Cannibal Corpse's albums. The thing is, I got into them pretty much after I found Carcass, but once I found Morbid Angel, it kind of replaced Cannibal Corpse for me. Yeah. So I was just listening to Morbid Angel. Like once I heard Covenant, it was over. Like that record to me was a game changer. It's still to this day, it's my all-time favorite death metal album. Yeah. But so if anybody was like, "Oh, give me a death metal album to listen to," I'd be like, "Here you go. Listen to fucking Morbid Angel's Covenant."
Yeah, it's a good call. That's up there. I mean, like I said, they were in my top three. Did you see them back in the day, like in the 90s, like the late 90s? Because I think that's when I first got to see them, was like 99, 2000. Did you see him? Like, I think that's like the Formula Fatals to the Flesh era. Did you see him back then?
Oh yeah, I saw them during that time. So it's funny. They came here and they played during the Domination tour.
Okay.
But I didn't go because we already heard that Dave Vincent was a super racist asshole.
Jeez.
Even though we didn't understand, because we were like, well, Trey, I still don't know how the fuck you pronounce his last name, Trey Azagthoth or whatever.
Yeah, Trey Azagthoth.
We're like, he's not white, and either is a drummer, so how is he racist? But everyone we knew from Florida, because we had real close ties with like Tampa,
okay,
through like Reversal of Man and Order of Importance and Ass Suck, those bands, they were all like, yeah, he's a racist piece of shit. So we didn't go see him. And I remember some of my friends even went and like protested the show. And I was like, I'm not doing all that. That's just too much. But once they got rid of Dave Vincent and was it Steve Tucker that came around after that?
Yeah, he was he came in on Formula's Fatal to the Flesh. Jeez, it's hard to say. But yeah, he came in on that record.
Once that happened, I was like, okay, cool. I can go see Morbid Angel now. And I saw them on the Formula's Fatal to the Flesh tour here. And it was sick. I don't remember who it was with, though.
Was it Diabolic? I think they were with.
Awesome.
I think it was Diabolic. Remember them back in the day?
Oh, it might have been actually.
Yeah, I think it was.
I was gonna say Monstrosity, but I think you're right. I think it was Diabolic.
I think it was Diabolic. But what I remember was Trey's guitar. Remember, he always played a BC Rich Bitch signature series, but his guitar sound, like his amplification, like, did he have a BC Rich? I don't know, that doesn't matter, but his amps, dude, like he was just a wall of sound. Like he just stood there. You know how Trey was with his weird hair, just super skinny dude, like just tearing it up. My friend actually named his son after Trey.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's pretty metal, right? Yeah, he actually named him after Trey, now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, Covenant is a good place to start too. Like, and as far as Suffocation goes to, like Effigy of the Forgotten or Pierce from Within, I would say is a good place to start with death metal.
Oh yeah.
And None So Vile by Cryptopsy. Like that's just my jam. Like talking about going back to Judge and having like that authentic, like scary, violent edge to it. Like Cryptopsy kind of packaged that perfectly for me. Like it was scary music. And like Lord Worm, were you ever a big Cryptopsy guy too?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I'm trying to remember. What was the album after
Whisper Supremacy?
None So Vile.
Whisper Supremacy. That's when they brought in.
Was it Whisper Supremacy?
Yeah, it was, because that's when they brought in the hardcore dude. Remember, they tried to cross genres. I felt. Yeah, it was Whisper Supremacy.
Yeah, no.
And then You'll Bet.
I was trying to remember which album it was that I actually got into them on.
Okay.
It wasn't that one, and it wasn't. It was Blasphemy Made Flesh.
Yeah,
it was that album.
Yeah, that was their first. That Yeah, that album's the shit, man.
Yeah, man. That was the album that I first heard. And I remember, I don't want to say nothing sounded like that, but I remember hearing the drummer and being like, okay, it's a drum machine.
Nope.
But then when you look inside and it says, okay, there's a drummer, I'm like, wait, that's a real drummer that's fucking playing that fast?
Flo tore it up.
Yeah, I was a big fan of theirs. But yeah, when they brought in the kind of bulkier guy to sing, definitely the hardcore guy. I don't know what band he was from, but I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, we were all upset. I mean, that was a big high school era for me too. Like all my friends when I, death metal first came to me, and it was kind of right when Lord Worm, the vocalist, jumped off, and I think his name was Insalvo or something like that, or Del Salvo. I don't remember. But yeah, kind of.
Yeah, that was it.
Was it Del Salvo?
Myke DeSalvo.
Myke DeSalvo, yeah.
Myke DeSalvo, that's his name.
And then You'll Beg, remember, with the train hitting the dude? Like, that was like a good album. I didn't care for his vocals, but as far as music goes and technicality, like, I don't think it gets any more technical than that. Like, it's a crazy record, very crazy record. But.
Yeah, I kind of fell off from him after that album. I don't remember the name of the one that came out in like 2005 or 2006, but I kind of quit listening to him around then.
Right. They were always.
But I did get to see him with Lord Worm once, and I was like, wow.
Me too.
Fucking crazy.
Yeah, they did the whole None So Vile record, I believe. Wasn't it that tour? Or did you, like, where they did the whole record front, from the beginning to end? Was it that tour that you saw?
I don't remember if it was that tour or not. I just remember seeing him and just being like, okay, first of all, Lord Worm is like 65 years old or some shit.
Right. And
he's up there like, no shirt, skinny as fuck, and like that's who these vocals are coming out of. Holy fuck!
Yep, still eating worms. What a awesome showman! He was such a showman for sure. He's actually like a college professor for literature and poetry up there in Canada. I don't know if you knew that or not, but like he's a legit dude.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, dude, he really is. He's like an actual professor, and he had some other little side project. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. My friends are going to kill me. But
he had a black metal side project.
Yeah,
really wasn't awesome.
It wasn't bad.
I can't think of the name of it though.
Me either right now. Oh, was it Transnuclear or something like that? Or I don't know.
Is that it?
Something. I'll send it to you if I find it.
Yeah, that was it. It was Rage Nuclear.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yep. That was it. All right, cool, dude. Now let's move on to hip hop, because I'm a huge hip hop fan as well. And you said that's where you kind of started as a kid. What was like your first hip hop tape that you got? And I'll tell you mine, and you'll laugh. But what was your first hip hop tape?
Full tape? If I had to guess, I'd say it was probably Kid and Play, because they were like my favorite group back then. Because that was like my favorite. My first concert was with MC Hammer, Kid and Play, and Heavy D when I was like 11.
That's awesome, dude.
But yeah, my mom took me, and I was pretty stoked. But I remember Kid and Play being like, for me, was like the pinnacle of hip hop at the time. So yeah,
I love those movies too. And that's funny, you said it was Kid and Play. Mine was Vanilla Ice to the Extreme. My first two tapes was like Poison, like the hair metal band. Like you said, yours was Whitesnake.
Awesome.
Mine was Poison. I remember my mom got it for me. Every Rose Has Its Thorn. That was the jam on it. I don't know what that album's called. And then it was Vanilla Ice to the Extreme, because like every kid had to get that haircut with the steps. Remember when Vanilla Ice came out?
Oh, yeah.
So, and then Hammer was big. But, yeah, those were my first two tapes. What about, like, when you started skating? Is that when different elements of hip-hop came into your life?
No, I started skating because I saw the movie Gleam in the Cube.
All right.
And that was what was like, okay, skateboarding is cool. I'm going to get me a skateboard. I'm going to be able to, like, fucking ollie over trucks and shit like that. And I was like, all right. I don't know if you've seen Gleam in the Cube, the movie.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, Brian was mostly into punk rock.
Okay.
So this was before hip hop was really kind of associated with skating. I don't really remember what year. Cause I remember like
Beastie Boys had something to do with that, didn't they?
Say again?
Beastie Boys, didn't they have something to do with that? Like the crossing of, I don't know, hip hop and skate culture? I could be wrong, but
it seemed like skateboarding was mostly punk rock for a really long time. And then it seemed like around 95 is when all of a sudden everything was hip hop.
Okay.
It was weird.
Yeah, I remember that time. Yeah, it was. I mean, Wu-Tang had something like, because remember, Wu-Tang is the one I remember that really started to creep into, I guess, skating culture in the mid-90s for me. That's what I remember.
I definitely remember Wu-Tang, but I remember for me, when I noticed the big shift was when I got that Plan B video, virtual reality, and the majority of the music on it was hip-hop. It was mostly like hieroglyphic stuff. It was like Del the Funky Homo Sapien, Casual, then it was like Alcoholic, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, this is weird, but it's actually still cool, you know? And that was what kind of got me into like super underground hip hop was that skate video.
Like what were some of the artists when you say super underground in the 90s?
It was definitely when I cause I had like walked away from hip hop a little bit, but, and that happened a couple times in my life really, but around the time when I got that video, one of the first skaters I remember, Tony Magnuson was skating to Souls of Mischief. Okay. And I was like, damn, this is actually really good. Mm-hmm. And then it just so happened a couple dudes later, Mike Carroll was skating to, I think, Casual. Pretty sure it was Casual. And then the Sean Sheffy part was a track with Casual and Del. So I was like, man, who are all these people? And I didn't even know they were all part of the same crew. So I remember going up to the local tape shop, Turtles, and buying a Del cassette, buying a Casual cassette. I think I bought like a Raz Kaz cassette. Like that was what I was really into at the time.
Right on. How about the mid 90s? It was for hip hop. It was huge. I mean, obviously the golden era, but here, in Northwest Indiana, and I guess I could speak for the Midwest, Bone Thugs and Harmony, East 99 Eternal was like the biggest thing ever. Like I remember my mom getting that CD for me and people would like purposely hang out with me, like basically use me just to hang out so they could listen to that record. Like, did that have a lot of spins down south in Atlanta too? Like, do you remember that album being that huge? Because it was huge here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was definitely big. And I didn't really care for it like that back then, at least. Of course, I like it now. But back in the day, I didn't really care for it like that. But it was definitely very popular here because it sounded kind of Southern. Just by the way they were rapping. Because, I mean, it was very, to me at least, it was very Outkast kind of influenced. I don't know. But, yeah, it was definitely really popular here. But I wasn't listening to that. I was more into like the really, I don't even know. I don't even want to say like the more underground stuff, but I was mostly stuck on hieroglyphic stuff and whatever those guys were saying was good. So like Funk Dubious or like the Hobo Junction stuff. It was mostly that stuff that I was really into. And I was also already a fan of the Digging in the Crate stuff. So I was listening to Lord Finesse and I was listening to Big L and I was listening to Diamond D because this is weird also. I found them because my sister was a DJ and she had stolen a box of CDs from her record station. And I was flipping through them and in the box was Diamond D's Stunts, Blunts, and Hip Hop.
Okay.
I think that's what it was called. And I took it. And he was in Diamond, Digging in the Crates. And from there, I just found all this other stuff.
Right. Because Digging in the Crates.
I wasn't really listening to too much commercial stuff.
Digging in the Crates says like Big L, Lord Finesse, like you said, Double D. Wasn't Mace and Cameron in there too? Or no?
Mm-mm.
Or I just know Mace and Cameron and like Fat Joe were around that particular crew, or was that just Big L in general? Like, I know they had an affiliation.
Fat Joe had some connection to them. Was Fat Joe in Digging in the Crate? I can't remember. Yeah. Fat Joe definitely had some sort of connection to Digging in the Crates, but I was just not a fan of Fat Joe at all.
No, I like Big Pun. You like Big Pun?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a brilliant lyricist. But
absolutely.
Speaking of Big L, I know you're a huge fan just by listening to your content and watching your stuff, and so am I. And here's my question for you with Big L. What do you like? There's the rumor that he just signed to Rockefeller, or however that went down. I don't know if that's true or if that's just a rumor. But if it were true, do you think that like Big L would have outshined Jay-Z? Like, I think that he was a better. No, go ahead.
I don't think so. Only because, I mean, I definitely think he was a better lyricist, but I don't think he had crossover appeal the way Jay-Z did.
Big L's voice was always kind of odd, very nasally. Like, I remember being very impressed when I was younger. Like, the first time I was like, man, I don't know about his voice. And a rapper's voice is like, 90% of it, right? I mean, it really, really is.
Mm-hmm.
But god damn, is he a badass lyricist. And I think, like, as far as a punchline rapper goes, I think he's the best. I think it's safe. Like, is it safe to say that? Would you agree? Like, punchline wise?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. He was definitely one of the all-time best punchline rappers. But the problem with Big L is, I think when it came to being mainstream popular, I think he was probably a little bit too lyrical.
Okay.
And he was kind of the guy that would just say whatever the fuck he felt like saying. You know, like Devil's Son. Like, I couldn't see anybody on a mainstream level being like, yeah that's the guy. That. Grab him up.
Right. He didn't give a shit, because even Nas was blown away after that. He's like, man, I got this Big L guy, you know. He's like, I'm actually like scared. Like, it could be safe to say too, he's like the first horrorcore, right? I mean, with that song, I mean, shit.
Probably.
Man. I mean, that's like death metal for hip hop. I mean, I remember first hearing that too, and I was just like, holy shit, like, this is scary. This will scare your parents for sure. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, he to your point, I totally agree with you. You know, he was talking about raping women and killing everybody and
killing his own mom.
It was just nuts.
It was nuts. Like, not to be, I'm laughing. I have a dark sense of humor, but it's like, I can't take it that serious. It was total for shock, you know, like a shock value. I feel like he realized like he had to say some crazy shit to get his name on the board, especially in New York at that particular time, because let's face it, there were so many great MCs coming out, like, you know, like 93, 94, 95, like he had to make a name for himself somehow to grab people's attention. And I think that's why he did it. Now moving on to Dead End Hip Hop, I've been a fan for a long time. And the way I came across you guys was the Death Grips, you know, when Death Grips came out with Ex-Military, and everybody was just blown away. Right. So I've always kept tabs and watched Fantano's channel, you know, so then obviously would show up recommended videos. And then it was you guys talking about, you know, Death Grips and Ex-Military. I believe that was the first review you guys did, right?
Of Death Grips. Yeah, we did Ex-Military, and I forget, it was at somebody's house actually at the time.
Okay. But that's how I was exposed to you guys. And for the listener, could you give us a little bit of like your guys' history, how it started, you know, like and stuff like that? Because it's a collective, it's a group of you guys. So could you give us a little bit of the history of that?
Yeah. So Dead End Hip Hop started at a job that we all worked at. We all worked at this absolutely awful company, and we would all just argue about rap music in our emails, our work emails. And, you know, it was, these arguments would go all day long. And, then the two of the guys, they started it up. A lot of people don't know, like, I wasn't a part of Dead End Hip Hop at the beginning. It was just the other guys without me. They did like maybe 4 or 5 videos. And then they asked me to do it, and I was like, no, I'm not interested. I don't know what YouTube is, and you guys have terrible taste in rap, so I don't really want to talk to you guys about rap music. Because at that point, I was just nothing but underground shit. Like, I was nothing but like Def Jux shit, Rhyme Sayers, Quantum. Like, I was not trying to hear anybody talk to me about no fucking Jay-Z, or talking to me about no damn Juvenile or any of that shit.
Okay.
So I was like, I'm not interested. They convinced me to come on one show, and I did. And yeah, I kind of stuck around after that. I don't really know what made it so appealing for people, I guess, because when we were younger, you know, we used to sit around the lunch table and just argue about rap music. So I guess people can identify with that, because that's kind of what they do as well. So you can now watch these 4 guys on your screen arguing about rap music. I guess that's what it is. But
yeah, I would say that's it. And
it's been a crazy ride. And
it's cool because you get a different perspective and a taste from everyone at the table, because there's usually about 4 to 5 of you guys, correct? And, you know, you might be a Atmosphere fan and like your underground. And I can't remember the other guys' names, no disrespect to them, but then he might like the Juvenile record, or he might really like Eminem or some of the more commercial shit. So that's cool, because it's a great variety of different tastes, and it's not so biased, because like even with what we're doing here at Musically Meditated, like for me to keep the content fresh and shit, like I do get feedback like, hey man, it seems like you're going back to hip hop, metal, and punk, but those are like my comfort zones. So that's what I know the most about. And I kind of come from a biased point. So it's nice. That's why I bring on so many different guests. And, you know, there's never really necessarily an argument, but it's nice to just get that different feel. So I think that's what the recipe for success is with you guys. And like, what year did that start? Like, because YouTube came out, what, in like 06, 07? Like, how long have you guys been doing that?
I mean, it's been almost 10 years now.
Damn.
I think it's been 8. I think is what one of the guys said the other day, that it's been 8 years. I think that's correct. I don't know exactly how long I've been doing it with them, but I think the first Dead and Hip Hop video that was ever uploaded, I believe, was 8 years ago. So yeah, it's been a minute.
It's been a minute. And as far as getting you all together on a regular basis, is that a pain in the ass?
Yes. Okay. It didn't used to be, because when we all worked at the same job, we all had weekends off. So we all had the same basic schedule. But now that none of us are still at that job and we're all kind of floating around, it's a bit difficult to get all of us together. We try to shoot every Sunday, but that doesn't always happen. But yeah, I mean, we're 5 grown men with different lives and shit. So yeah, it is what it is.
Right on. And now moving on to like your solo YouTube channel. Like I said, congrats on the 50,000. Do you find
Thanks,
it?
Man.
Yeah, for sure. Do you find it hard, like jumping from a hip hop audience like that into, like you said, more metal, but not necessarily like you go over movies and a lot of stuff, but more even underground metal is what you're focusing on. Wouldn't you say, like with your own page, like is it hard to build an audience doing that, jump in the different genres?
No, not really. I think that our channels have 2 different audiences basically. I mean, there's crossover between my channel and Dead and Hip Hop, but because I talk about, you know, shit that no rap fan or very few rap fans would even be remotely interested in, I pick up different people. Like, there's definitely a lot of people that tell me they watch my channel, but they have no desire to watch Dead and Hip Hop. And that's fine, because the reason I started my channel was because a lot of people got it confused. They think that I'm like just this huge rap guy who kind of likes other stuff on the side, when it's the absolute opposite. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mostly listen to metal and punk and that kind of shit, and industrial and whatever. And I just happen to also like hip hop. I mean, I love hip hop. Don't get me wrong. I love hip hop, but I'm not just some like 98% rap guy who just happens to dabble in other genres. So I started my own channel because I was like, I don't want to just talk about rap music all the fucking time. It gets boring to me. I want to talk about fucking metal. I want to talk about punk rock. I want to talk about folk bands. You know, I want to talk about all kinds of shit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tip my hat to you for sure. Like you've definitely inspired me personally to do that. Like to not just focus, you know, because like with Musically Meditated in the beginning, it's like, well, should I just focus on a particular genre? But like I said, tipping my hat to you and guys like Fantano. You guys are able to talk about multiple genres. So maybe some people will tune in to a particular episode or maybe they won't. But, you know, I think, like you said, it's a success for switching up the content and just not getting bored, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know, a lot of people get really confused by that. And, you know, when I started my channel, I got a lot of comments, mostly from black folks. They were like, what the fuck is this? What are you talking about? This is stupid.
Right.
And, you know, I kind of wanted to be one of those guys that people, because when I was in high school and I was listening to this stuff, there weren't a lot of black people around that were digging this shit. So, of course, I was getting awful comments from black people and white people, you know, and I didn't have anybody else to say, well, see, that guy likes this shit too, and he's okay, you know. So now it's like being older, you know, and having a kind of a platform, I kind of want to make it to where, you know, other weird black kids that like shit other than rap are not going to be looked at like, you know, an outcast or a freak or whatever. It's been fun, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Because I mean, as cliche as it sounds, it is true. I mean, music brings people together from all ethnics, all cultures, you know, wherever you grew up. Like that's what it's really, really about. And especially hip hop, because look at what hip hop's grown into. I mean, it's the #1 commercial, you know, like most commercially influenced thing ever. Like hip hop is in everything right now. You know, who would have thunk it?
Right.
So many years ago. I mean, it really is. Because I remember, you know, when I was a kid, my dad's like, oh, rap's crap kind of guy. He's like, it's going to die like disco. You know, like he always said that. And then it's like, nah, you know, like my dad likes NWA. Like he knows Eazy-E songs because of me. But, you know, like I remember him bitching about it. Like this is shit. But like he grew to like it. And that's just crazy, you know, because hip hop really
That's awesome.
Yeah, hip hop is really in everything now. It really is. So I applaud you, dude. That's cool that you were able to do that and successfully do it, you know, and it just doesn't ever come off fake. You know, it's very genuine. So like I said, I applaud you, man.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, for sure. And as far as social media goes and targeting your audience, like what works for you? Just real quick, like are you more successful with Twitter, Instagram, Facebook? You know, what's your go-to?
I'm mostly on Twitter. I don't promote myself as much as I should. But yeah, I mostly use Twitter for promotion. This seems like it's easier to reach a lot of people. I have the most followers on there than anything else. I'll occasionally promote through Facebook, but I don't really think it helps all that much.
I agree.
But I think Twitter is mostly where it's at. Is that what you use mostly too?
No, I'm more of an Instagram guy. It's like I get Twitter, but I don't. You know, like as far as time management goes, like that's what I was going to ask you too. Like time management with having your own career. Like how the hell do you do it, man? I mean, with Dead End Hip Hop and your own channel, you know, Myke C-Town. Like how do you keep up with all of it? Like, do you have a strict schedule? Do you have a team? Or like how do you do it, man?
No, I wish.
Okay.
I wish I had a team. No, I don't. It's just me. It's just me doing my own, on my own channel. It's just me. I do all the filming, editing, you know, all that stuff. With Dead End, of course, Rod does the editing and stuff and the filming, and then the promotional stuff is mostly Ken and Rod. I don't have to do any of that stuff. But as far as time management, I work from home, which makes it very beneficial for me to be able to, like, the second I'm done with work, I can just literally just move my hands to my laptop from my work laptop and just start doing whatever. Or even if I'm having downtime at work, I can go edit a video or something. And I shoot all my stuff in the room that's 8 feet away from me. So it works out easy that way. Of course, not everybody's that lucky. So
right on. And I know you said you're about 5 years older than me, but is it hard for you, like, not to do like an age discrimination thing, but it kind of is. But like, if people are shouting out to you, like, hey, check this out. Or if there's a younger guy that's like, yeah, Morbid Angel Covenant's okay, but this new whatever it is, like, is it hard for you to take someone serious because of their age? Like they haven't had their, I don't know, hip hop experiences, right? Or like they weren't in a mosh pit in the late 90s or something. Like, is it hard for you to take that person serious? Or their opinion serious?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. It is. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's right, but yeah, I mean, I look at somebody now and I'm okay. You know what? It's funny because earlier today, a buddy of mine posted on Facebook the cover of Cradle of Filth's "Dusk in Her Embrace," and he said, "This is a classic album. Don't even bother to say it's not. If you do, you're crazy." Something like that. And I commented, and I was like, the only people that will shit on this album are people that were born after 1990. And why the fuck would you listen to anybody's opinion if they're born after 1990 anyway? And that's kind of the way I look at things now. And it was because it's like the people's opinions are whatever they are, but people are so caught up in being cool now. Like they'll just say shit without really thinking about it. And yeah, I get stuff like that all the time where they're just like, oh, Carcass's Heartwork is bullshit. You know, that band's trash, da-da-da. All right. Where were you in 1993, motherfucker?
Right.
Where were you? I guarantee you weren't listening to heavy music, so shut the fuck up. You found metal 2 years ago. I don't want to hear your opinion.
That's just us getting older, ain't it? Like we're turning into that guy. Like, hey, it's not from my time. It's not good. But no, I agree. Like I'll listen to any suggestion, but it's like when they're younger and they are kind of coming from like, oh, that sucks. This shit's cool. It's like, well, I don't think you've earned the stripes yet, but who am I? Who am I to judge or say that, right? But I agree. I
agree with you though. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like if you haven't been through certain things, you shouldn't try to make these like overly factual comments on them. It's okay to be like, you know, I couldn't really get into Slaughter the Soul when it came out, or when I first heard it. You know, it didn't really resonate with me. No problem. But you don't go on somebody else's shit and be like, what the fuck are you talking about? This band sucks. That album sucks. It's garbage. Nobody was influenced by that. You're making that up. Bitch,
yeah.
What are you talking about?
Everybody was
like,
copying that.
I literally watched this happen. Like, really?
Yeah, that's a huge influential album for me too. Like, I'll never forget when I first heard that. And what's the vocalist's name? Is it Lindbergh?
Thomas Lindbergh. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a badass. That was such a great record. And I don't know how true this is. I've mentioned this before on other on other episodes. But I heard that he got done watching Menace to Society, and that influenced all of the movie that influenced all of his lyrical content for that album.
Really?
Yeah, like don't necessarily quote me on that. I remember reading an article a long time ago, and I could have swore it said that. Isn't that crazy?
But it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense if you really think about it.
Yeah, O-Dog, man. O-Dog influenced him. So there you go. There's a little mind warp for you. Isn't that crazy? So like I said,
that is crazy.
I don't know if I saw that, like read that in a dream, but I kind of remember Pit magazine back in the day. Like I remember,
of course,
yeah, going to like Barnes and Nobles and just never buying it. Like you could tell every dirty, greasy metal hand was on that Pit magazine. And you would just go through it. But yeah, I think I read that in a Pit like a long time ago. But all right, dude, I want to move on to this now. It's a pick between artists or bands. I'm going to name, a band or an artist, and which one had a bigger impact on you, or, which one would you still like if you had to pick between one or the other that you would want to listen to like for the rest of your life. So kind of both. All right. Let's start off with Bjork versus PJ Harvey.
Bjork.
Okay, for sure. What's your favorite album by Bjork?
Yeah, that's easy.
What's your favorite album?
It's still Debut, honestly. I listen to that record all the time, even though it's released weird stuff, and people would assume that I would like her more weird stuff, but the weird pop sensibilities of that record, they're just perfect to me.
Yeah, I love Bjork. All right, how about Minor Threat versus Black Flag?
Minor Threat. I don't even really like Black Flag. I know you'll probably want to hang up on me, but
gotta go, bro.
I've never been a big...
No.
Sorry, dude, sorry.
No, it's all right. It's all right. No Black, but Minor Threat all day for sure.
Oh, I love me some Minor Threat. Black Flag never did it, but Minor Threat always did.
All right. Morrissey versus Robert Smith. This is a hard one, I know, because I keep tabs on you between these two guys.
Okay, so I would definitely say Robert Smith, because I just feel like Robert Smith, I've said this before, but I honestly think that I probably would have killed myself if I had not found Robert Smith when I did. Morrissey, on the other hand, he's just kind of an asshole. Robert Smith seems like he'd be a cool dude to have a beer with and just talk about life. Morrissey, you'd probably want to punch him in his fucking mouth within 10 minutes of beating him.
Right. He's a little bit smug, for sure.
And plus, I hated Morrissey when I first heard him. I fucking hated his music. I hated him for years. And I didn't even really start listening to Morrissey until I was in probably my mid-20s. A lot of people don't know that. They think that I've just always been this Morrissey fan. No, ask anybody that was hanging out with me back in those days. I fucking hated Morrissey and the Smiths. Yeah. So I've had more time with The Cure.
Yeah, same with me. I love Morrissey and I love the Smiths, musically speaking, but I don't remember anybody jamming that shit back in the day. I just remember my dad always making fun of him, like he's a dick, like my dad never liked Morrissey or the Smiths, but that I was like, well, I kind of want to like this guy. And like how you said, The Cure saved you through maybe a depressing or a dark time. Like the same thing with me and Morrissey, and specifically the Smiths. Like I had to deal with a divorce and death, a few years back. I always liked the Smiths and always appreciated them. And the Deftones brought both of these guys or both of these bands like really into my orbit. And I just really sunk in. And you know what? During my dark time too, I was always jamming Pornography by The Cure, which is probably like the darkest album ever. Like that's my favorite album by The Cure. What's your favorite album by The Cure? Disintegration, I think I saw before, right? That's like your favorite album ever?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It definitely goes for me with The Cure. It's Disintegration. Then it's a weird tie between Blood Flowers and Pornography. I can't say which one is better. It depends on my mood that day, I think.
Right on. And then are you going to go to Cleveland this summer to watch both Morrissey and Robert Smith get inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? I wonder if they're going to like duke it out finally, because they hate each other. But they're both getting inducted this summer.
I thought The Cure already got inducted. Did they not?
I don't know. I mean, I thought I read that. I could be wrong. Like, did that already happen? Because all the Brits, like who else did that? Radiohead did this. It's like they really don't care. They're like, all right, well, thanks, America, but we don't really care. But I don't know if that was like something I read incorrectly, but I thought they were both going to be inducted this year because The Cure is also coming out with a new album this year. Are you pumped for that?
Yes. Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. I didn't exactly love their last record. It was good, but it wasn't that great. The fact that Robert Smith has posted saying, this is an extremely dark and intense Cure record, I'm like, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I want. I love playful Cure. I don't really need any more playful Cure. I want dark, depressing, slit my wrist Robert Smith.
Same here. That's my favorite shit too, for sure. Now I'll go to the next versus duo here. Lemmy versus Danzig. Who you going with?
Lemmy. Danzig's an asshole.
He is an asshole. I want to go see him in like a couple weeks though. They're going to be in Chicago, the original Misfits with Lombardo on drums. So I'm stoked for that. And I did get to see him at Riot Fest a couple years ago, but Danzig is definitely an asshole.
Yeah, and it's like Lemmy was always consistent. He never put out, from what I consider, he never put out bad albums. Danzig put out a lot of turds. Now, granted, the first 3 Danzig records are fantastic, but Danzig put out some bullshit.
Yes, he has, especially like the last few. Like he's twisting and twiddling the knobs on production, and someone just needs to go back and slap his wrist. Kind of like Eminem, ain't it? It's like, dude, there has to be someone in the camp for Danzig and Eminem to be like, hey, dude, that sounds like shit. Like just worry about
Right.
like Eminem, you worry about rapping, and Danzig, you worry about singing. And no, we're not going to bring Rick Rubin in. We're going to bring in just this totally unknown person and give it a shot. But you guys just do you and do what you do. But I agree with you.
I agree.
I like the first 4 Danzig records, but then after that, I give it a total, I don't know about that. All right, moving on. Rage versus System. Rage Against the Machine versus System.
Oh, easily Rage. I never got into System of a Down. That's another band. When all of that stuff was getting really popular, when nu metal was getting really popular, I was already fucking neck deep in extreme metal, and I wasn't interested in any of that stuff. The only band that ever resonated with me was Deftones, and that's just because they sound like a hardcore band to me.
Right on.
But System of a Down and Korn, and I know it's unfair to put them in the same bucket, but yeah, I didn't get into any of that stuff.
Right on. That's why I fuck with you, Myke, because I'm like the biggest Deftones fanboy ever. So right on. Okay. You had one strike against you with the Black Flag statement, but we're okay now. We're okay. We're okay with that Deftones statement. Like I think like my friend and producer Sretton's always like, hey, we're going to play a musically meditated drinking game. Every time Joe mentions the Deftones, Morrissey or the Smiths, take a shot, because like I'm always going back to them. Like, so I'll get like some hate mail from people like, hey, dude, you should just do like a Deftones podcast, just like talking shit. But I applaud you. So thank you for liking the Deftones, man. I'm glad.
Absolutely.
But all right, moving on a little hip hop here. NWA versus the Ghetto Boys. That's a hard one. I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
That is a hard one. Mm-hmm. I think I'd probably go with NWA because I think I listen to them more than I listen to the Ghetto. Yeah, I definitely listen to NWA more than I listen to the Ghetto Boys, and I think that's just because I remember NWA being really popular when I lived in California. Okay. And I remember having to sneak to get dubs of their albums because, my mom wasn't going to let me listen to that shit. So yeah, I'd definitely go NWA.
Yeah, absolutely. NWA is one of those bands that actually like scared you as a kid. And like you said, you'd have to hide the record or the tape or whatever it was like under your bed so they wouldn't find it because you'd get some shit, like I remember I had 100 miles and running. I had to have been very young. I think I stole it from my cousin Doug. Shout out to him or something. But I remember I had it and like had it under my pillowcase and would just like sneak in and listen to it. Like, that's some crazy music for I don't know, a 6 or a 7-year-old to listen to. Like looking back, like damn. But yeah, I go with NWA. Another thing with them. Do you feel like I've always been a fan of this of MC Ren? Do you think MC Ren has ever got the correct props? What do you feel about Ren?
I don't think so. I don't think anybody really talks too much about MC Ren, at least not in the circles that I run with. So I don't know.
I think he's like, I've always been an Eazy-E guy. Like, he's my favorite. I mean, as a rapper, we all know he had ghostwriters and shit, but he had the voice. Like, going back to Big L, like, maybe he might not resonate with people because he was nasally, but Easy had the good nasally voice. He was a character. But I felt like Ren, bar for bar, was just as good as Cube when they were together. You know, like when Cube went on his solo tip, like, different story, right? I mean, that was some game changing shit. But Ren was right there, man. I always thought he kind of got screwed. You know, he never got the limelight. I mean, shit, I think he maybe had like 2 lines in the movie. It's like, hey, was MC Ren a member or what? I think like Yella had even more lines than Ren, but I've always been partial to Ren, man. So I was just curious to see how you
I'm going to go
felt.
listen to it again. I don't know, man. I've never really paid that close of attention, but now that you said it, I'm going to go back and see.
Yeah, like the Mad Scientist that came out in the mid 90s. That was like my jam back then. So check out maybe that album first. But all right. Jumping from hip hop straight to country, Cash or Waylon Jennings? Because I know you're a country guy too. You like your country.
I would definitely go Waylon. I like Johnny Cash, but I think, and this is going to sound like blasphemy to some people, but as much as I love his albums, I think a lot of his songs sound exactly the same.
Absolutely.
Waylon had more heart. He had more soul.
Yeah, for sure. Earl Sweatshirt versus Freddie Gibbs.
Ooh, that's dirty, man.
I know. I gotta throw it at you like that. Because I feel like those two right now are my favorite, and I like the direction and how versatile they are. I mean, Earl's doing his own thing, but Freddie could kill it on any kind of beat. I mean, if you can keep up with Mad Lib's production, you know, and I mean, Freddie's just the shit right now. So they're both hot. I'm more partial to Freddie on a bias thing because he's basically from where we're from here in Northwest Indiana, you know, so I have a soft spot in my heart for him. But yeah, who do you pick, man? Earl or Freddie?
I think I'm gonna have to go with Earl just because I can identify more with his content than I can with Freddie. Freddie is ill as fuck, but yeah, I'm gonna have to go Earl.
Okay, because yeah, you could listen to Freddie kind of like Benny the Butcher, and you automatically think you're like on some gangster shit. Like, that's what I like about Freddie.
Yeah.
You know? Like, it's like, all right, I'm ready. No, like, no, you're really not. Like, you got to check yourself. But
you're not at all.
Yeah, they take it to that level, you know, as a listener, like, yeah, like, all right. Like, I don't know what this lifestyle is about, but I could pretend, and that's why they're fun, you know?
Right.
And Freddie,
that's funny.
Yeah, Freddie's, man, I'm looking forward to that bandana. I know I messaged you and you're like, I want to wait, and I do too, but maybe we could link back up and kind of go over that. I'm interested to see what happens with that, you know?
Yeah, no doubt.
How it matches up to Pinata, because that album's great. That's like one of my favorite hip hop records in the last decade. All right, we'll move on now to Iggy Pop versus Henry Rollins.
I'm going to go Iggy. You know, Henry Rollins, while I like him as a personality sometimes, well, shit, no, I take that back. Henry Rollins says some stuff that I've always thought was pretty cool, but then he also comes across as kind of a meathead, kind of a bully. Iggy Pop is he's just so fucking punk to me. Like, everything about this guy, the fact that he still is kicking, and he's got to be 102 years old. His skin looks like a fucking leather suit.
I know.
I just fuck with it, man.
Me too. I think Iggy would be cool. Like, a lot of these, when I look at it, it's like, well, who would I rather interview? Or like you said, sit down and have a beer with. I think Iggy would be a lot easier to interview compared to Henry, you know, because Henry's he's just kind of intellectually intimidating. You know, there's something about him. Like you said, there's like a meathead vibe. No disrespect to Henry, but yeah, he just seems a little bit more on edge, where Iggy would just, you know, chain smoke or whatever. You know, like the one scene in Cigarettes and Coffee, wasn't he, with Tom Waits? Like, that was a great scene.
Mm-hmm.
It was a great scene. All right, moving on to Earth Crisis versus Integrity.
Oh, man.
I'm throwing them at you, dude.
Oh, fuck. Is this just who I'd rather listen to?
Yeah. Like, if you could only have your favorite album, you know, one CD or record of Earth Crisis or Integrity, what would you take with you?
It'd have to be Integrity. It has to be Those Who Fear Tomorrow, just because, I mean, that record is probably my number one favorite hardcore album. Yeah, it'd have to be Integrity.
Those vocals, though, man, like those vocals, those early Integrity vocals, it's where it's at, man. It's just good shit.
Oh, man. That album is just the lyrics are just so crazy. And I can listen to that album over. Matter of fact, I'm gonna listen to that shit tomorrow when I get to the gym. I can listen to that shit over and over and over again. It's so good.
It is good. Next one, At the Drive-In versus Fugazi.
Fugazi.
All right.
I would seriously, I would look at somebody crazy as hell if they said At the Drive-In over Fugazi. I'd be like, I don't know about you.
I don't know about
I wouldn't trust you with my kid.
All right. Venom versus Death. Death with Chuck, not early first punk rock Death.
Oh, easy. This is easily Venom. I was just talking to a buddy of mine recently about the fact that I'm having to come to the realization that I'm really not much of a Death fan.
See, I'm opposite.
I know that sounds like blasphemy too.
No, I'm opposite. Like I never liked Death when I was younger, and like my whole little circle of death metal friends. But as we're getting older, we're all appreciating it a lot more. So I'm kind of on the opposite end. Yeah. Like I think it was Chuck's vocals, and there was just maybe like too much of an 80s vibe for me, in the 90s with them. But yeah, interesting. You're kind of reverse.
Yeah. It's like I didn't like them when I first got into death metal. I didn't like them at all. And then maybe a few years back, I was like, man, I need to go and give Death another shot. And I think I was trying to force myself to like it because it's one of those bands where I feel like I should like it. And I bought like 2 or 3 other records and I haven't listened to them at all.
Okay. All right. Right on. Moving on to Kendrick versus J. Cole. I'm not going to do a Tupac versus Biggie. So don't worry.
Yeah, that's easily Kendrick. I'm not a fan of J. Cole much at all. I try not to be disrespectful. I used to be kind of disrespectful towards him. I'm trying to stop doing that. He's definitely a great artist. He just doesn't do it for me, but Kendrick is my shit.
Yeah, I like Kendrick better. I think, what was J. Cole's where he's sitting on top of I can't think of the name of the record, but when he's sitting on his rooftop, like that record, that was great.
Yeah, the something Forest Hill Drive.
Yeah, I really, really like that. And his last few releases were kind of to me. And then the one song about folding clothes, I was like, come on, bro. Like, I just couldn't get into that. I want to fold clothes for you. I was like, nah, like skip.
I'm good.
I'm good on that. But I think what helps J. Cole a lot is just his whole affiliation with Jay-Z. Not to take anything away from him either, but it's like if he wasn't under the Jay-Z umbrella, like, do you really think he would be talked about as much as he is commercially? Like, do you, like, I think it has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, it could be. I don't pay him enough mind anymore.
Okay.
All I know is anytime you say anything even remotely bad about J. Cole, people flip the fuck out. So I just leave it alone.
All right. Next question. Leonard Cohen versus Tom Waits.
Oh, Tom Waits. I love Leonard Cohen, but with Leonard Cohen, I feel like I would rather sit down and read his lyrics as a poetry book than listen to his music. Whereas Tom Waits, I just love him as a package.
Yeah. Same. Shout out to my grandma. She turned me on to Leonard Cohen at a young age. So yeah, grandma knows.
You have a cool family.
I do. My mom plays drums. I mean, we're as cool as they come, I guess. Maybe not me, but the rest of them. All right. Here's another one. MF Doom versus Killer Myke. I know that's hard. I'm throwing the hard ones at you, dude. I'm not taking it easy for sure.
Oh, wow. Wow. Damn, that's really, really, really fucking hard. Wow.
You could pass, man. If you want to take a pass, we could pass.
I don't want to be a cheater and pass, but I'm just gonna for right now. I'm gonna go with Killer Myke only because I feel like I listen to rap music more than I listen to doom projects these days. So for now, I'm gonna go with Killer Myke.
All right, bold statement. I respect it. I pick MF Doom all day. But I love Killer Myke too, so I'm interested.
I'm regretting my decision already.
I'm interested to see what Run the Jewels what they put out, man, because their last album was cool, but it's like, are they going to switch it up at all? Like, I'm kind of a harsh critic on them. Like, are they going to switch it up? Like, just something like with the beats and the energy. Like, I think they are who they are, but is there going to be any different flavor or different element? Or am I being too hard on them, you think?
Shit, I doubt it.
Okay.
I doubt it. I mean, I don't know. I think that they've gotten so successful with doing what they're doing. And I think that their last record, to me, was their best one.
Okay.
So I don't know. I don't see them changing up anytime soon.
Right on.
But then again, this is the longest they've taken as far as a break in between albums. So who knows what we'll get next.
Yeah, I'm excited. But I want to see if they mess with the sound at all. But why switch a recipe that's already working? I get it. I agree with you.
Yep.
Iron Maiden versus Metallica. Very, very basic heavy metal. But what you got?
Easily Maiden for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I listen to Iron Maiden way more than I listen to Metallica.
Okay. Mick Jenkins. You know, I'm in the Chicago area, so Mick Jenkins versus Open Myke Eagle.
Open Myke Eagle all day.
All day. You just
he's easily one of my top 5 favorite current rap artists. So yeah, I love Mick Jenkins, but I don't think anybody's touching Myke Eagle as far as like what he's bringing to the table.
Okay, right on. I like him too. You just went and saw him too, didn't you?
Yep, I just saw him last week with Samus, and he was fucking incredible.
Awesome. Next one, Deicide versus Suffocation.
Deicide versus Suffocation. I think I'm gonna have to go Deicide on that one.
All right.
Because I think I listened to Once Upon the Cross more than I listened to Effigy of the Forgotten. So yeah, I'm gonna go Deicide there.
All right. 1349 versus Burzum.
Oh, Burzum, easy.
All right.
I like 1349. I absolutely never ever listened to him, and I went and saw him play, and they were super boring.
Really?
Not that they weren't bad, but it was, you know what? Actually, you know what? I take it back. They weren't boring. I think it was the fact that like just everything sounded the same, but I think thinking back on it, it had more to do with the sound of the actual venue than it was the band.
Okay. All right.
But I don't listen to them very often.
Was Frost drumming live? Was he drumming then?
I don't think so.
I'm a fan of them, like all the way to Abomination Is My Name, whatever record that was, and then like their earlier stuff. But I kind of like the cross of, there's a little bit of death metal element, like death metal flavor in there. But I do like the drumming. I like Frost drumming a lot. So, but Burzum is classic old school death, or not death. I'm sorry, black metal. And the last question here: Emperor versus Dark Throne, because I know you're a black metal guy.
I'm gonna go Emperor. I mean, Emperor. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know why I'm thinking about it like that. Yeah, Emperor, because Anthem to Welcome at Dusk is my number one favorite black metal album. So that versus Transylvanian Hunger, I would definitely have to take Anthems.
All right, good call. And now, what I like to do with guests is your 3 best live shows. Like, what's the 3 shows you've been to that were the best that you can recall? You know, as far as who, what, where, when, how, and why. If you can't think of 3, at least give me your top show, like live performance where, you know, you got lost in it, forgot about all your problems, and they just kicked ass. Everything about it was perfect. If you could think of 3, what you got, Myke?
Let me see. I can definitely think. Okay, so my favorite concert experience was when I saw Current 93 play in San Francisco. I believe it was 2005. Easily my favorite concert experience. I flew out there by myself. Saw them play 2 nights in a row. I met the main guy, David Tibet, had a great conversation with him. We've been sort of friends ever since. And yeah, that concert was just mind blowing. So yeah, that's definitely my number one. Another one would probably be when I saw, the first time I saw LP, who's my favorite rapper. The first time I saw him play, I don't remember when that was, but it was a long ass time ago. That was definitely a mind-blowing experience. I never thought I'd ever get to see him play live.
Yeah, he's a great rapper.
That was on the I'll Sleep When You're Dead tour.
Okay.
What'd you say?
I said he's a great rapper and a great producer, man. He's talented.
He is. He's incredible. I don't know if I can think of a third one. I know when I saw Placebo play many, many years ago, that show was incredible. And I remember walking away being like, damn, that was one of the best shows I've ever seen. But yeah, there was another one, but it literally just jumped out of my head.
Any metal? Just
right after I thought of it.
Anything heavier? Like metal wise?
No, not that I can. I was gonna say when I saw Mayhem, they came through and they did the De Mysterious tour. That was really fucking cool. They played De Mysterious, Dom Satana the entire way through. But anything heavier? Not really. I mean, seeing Morbid Angel do Covenant in full was amazing too, but that wasn't really anything where I was just like, oh, you know what? I got one.
Okay.
The first time I saw King Diamond.
Oh, cool.
Because King Diamond was one of the very first like metal artists that I ever got into. You know, I that was one of the first albums that I really got sucked into was Abigail. And again, it was another band that I was like, I'll never get to see King Diamond live. And he came, and I saw him at this place called the Masquerade, and it was incredible. It was so incredible that I can tell you that I was playing fucking air guitar on a poster that I bought. And when I realized I was doing it, I still remember this vividly. When I realized I was doing it, I was like, oh my God, I'm a fucking dork. But I kept doing it, man, because it was that much fun. But yeah, that concert was amazing.
Yeah, some of us are air guitar guys or air drums. I'm like the air drummer dude for whatever reason. Like I play drums.
I do both.
I do
in the band.
Yeah, you turned me on to Current 93, so I'm still dipping my toes, but I didn't know really anything about them until I started, following you and watching what you had to say and your channel. So it's new for me, but I dig it. And like you said, you have a relationship with what's his last name? Tibet?
David Tibet. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I just flew out to LA about a month or two ago just because he had an art show there. And I got to see his art show, and it was crazy. I was in the bathroom, and I came out, and he was standing there. And he's like, hey, Myke, how are you? Like, the fact that this guy who's an icon, who's been making music since, like, the very early 80s, the fact that he remembers me and my name is just fucking mind-blowing.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he's easily my favorite artist right now. So if I could just meet Robert Smith after that, I'll be golden, man.
Right on. Well, maybe you will. I mean, they are putting out another album, and did they do another tour, The Cure? Like, did they sign up for another tour or not yet?
Yeah, they did. It's not coming here. They're doing like 3 or 4 shows. I'm sure once the album comes out, they'll do a full tour.
Okay.
I mean, they played here pretty much at any of their big tours. They played Atlanta. You know, they came here and they did like the big trilogy tour, and they'll be here, but. I've met all my favorite rappers. I've met a bunch of like metal dudes. I've met David Tibet, but yeah, if I can meet Robert Smith, I'll be super stoked.
Cool, man. Well, hey, Myke, I really appreciate you coming on the show. And, whenever if you ever come out the Chicago way, look me up. And if I ever come down South Atlanta way, I'll look you up. And I'd like to have you on. I'd like to have you on in the future too. Maybe we'll up our game and get the Skype cams, but I'll contact you and maybe we could do some reviews of something, or maybe do a Cure episode. That would be kind of fun. Like how the Cure came into your life, how they changed your life, what albums, maybe go through all of them or your top 5. Cause I haven't done a Cure episode yet, and I like to do that, but I like to have, the perfect guest. So I think we could, maybe mash up and do a Cure episode in the future.
Oh, I'd be 100% with that. Absolutely.
Right on, man. Well, thanks, Myke. And for everybody listening, where can they find you again on social media and as far as contact? I'm
Myke C-Town pretty much across the board. So MykeCtown. That's my Twitter. That's my Instagram. And you can find me that way. I believe you can find me that way on Facebook as well. But if you can find me on Twitter and Instagram, you're fine, because I barely ever post on Facebook. So
yeah, Facebook's trash.
And I'm Myke C-Town on YouTube as well.
Right on. Yeah, everybody subscribe to Myke C-Town. His YouTube content's awesome. Dead End Hip Hop is awesome. And Myke, like I said, once again, thanks for your time, dude. And I'll keep in touch in the future.
No doubt. Cool. Thanks for the invite, man. This was fun.
All right, it was fun. Take care, Myke.
All right, you too, buddy.
All right, later.
I'm musically meditated.
That's right.
I'm musically meditated. That's right. I'm musically meditated.
Producer my ass over there.